I have no idea what you're talking
Where they
about. I've
put
never heard
the
of
where
it.
they put the they had it at Fenway Park. They had it at well, I'll just cut this. So screw me. What's up, Candy Fam? My name is Nate, that's David, and this is the Talking Candy Weekly Update. Every week, we take a seat and talk about everything that's going on in the world of candy to give you an idea of what you should be paying attention to. And while David and I each have collections of our own, none of this is financial advice. We are just here to have a good time. David, it's Titan Week number 5. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been another exciting week. They've been expanding the criteria that they've been pulling these Titans from, giving us a little bit from different leadoffs, and it's been pretty interesting.
Agreed. Yeah, it's been nice to see that in addition to having 10 Titans a week, we're also seeing guys from different lineups, which is what you're referring to. So we're definitely going to jump into that. But we've also got 3 drops that we need to talk about. We've got the Field of Dreams Stadium drop, the Shawn Michaels WWE drop, and the upcoming Cal Ripken Jr. drop. And then in addition to that, like I said, we'll touch on Titans, and we're also going to have a little discussion about packs, current state of some packs, and what we've seen over the last 7-8 months. So, with that being said, let's start by jumping into some current events here. So, first off, just wanted to give a shout out to Whistle Piggy, which is also a phenomenal name on Twitter. Whistle Piggy was the winner of the Lineup 2 free pack and did me the service of posting a screenshot, which you and I both got a kick out of because he pulled an epic Vasquez and an uncommon belt. So a little representation from Boston and San Francisco in this pack. So shout out to Whistle Piggy. Hopefully that Vasquez turns into a Titan, and hopefully Vasquez is back on the Red Sox next year. I'm still holding out for that. So just wanted to touch on that real quick. Follow at Talking Candy NFT if you haven't already for more giveaways and stuff like that. But like I said, we've got 3 drops. One that's done, one that's in the middle of it, and one that's upcoming. The one that is done is the MLB Field of Dreams Stadium Series. So, as was the case with the original Stadium Series, these were designed by S. Preston or at Poot Poot on Twitter, and still have that same minimalistic style that I love. I know that you love it as well. So you got the cornfields, and same deal there. So these were released last week, I believe. Was it last Wednesday, something like that? I forget exactly when these were released, but these are done now, and there were 442 of the steel edition minted. There was also a one of one. I'm not sure what that went for. Were you keeping track of that? I'm not seeing immediately where to click in to find that.
I believe that one ended up at 4,000.
Cool. So one of a kind there, and then this was its own thing, and then there was also the $15 version of the commemorative ticket, basically that style with the 3 panels that open up. But this was
Mm-hmm.
kind of the main thing, if you will. And like I said, 442 of these minted. I was not around. I was traveling last week. But if you want to touch on this and what you noticed, if you have any insight on it.
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, this is in the same style as the Stadium Series that was dropped last year. And so I know there's a lot of people who are anxiously waiting to bring their other stadiums over to the Candy Marketplace. So that's something we're still holding out for. But there was just a lot of excitement to see something in this style on the Candy Marketplace. Just to see that Stadium Series kind of get its moment with this latest drop. One thing that sticks out to me is the $15 offering, the commemorative ticket. It actually sold less copies than the Steel Series minimalistic stadium, and so it's actually seen a bit of a bump in price from its original price. There's only 292 minted, and they've got a floor of about $30 right now. So it costs you twice as much now to pick one up versus last week when they were for sale originally. And I mean, they look cool in their own right, and I do love that minimalistic style. But you've got, the great sunset. You've got, the actual visual of the stadium itself on this commemorative ticket, and so I think that's kind of driven their values, quite a bit right now, at least.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This is really cool. I haven't actually clicked on this all the way into it yet, but very very nicely done, very tastefully done. Super minimalistic to your point. I also love the old school logos that they use for both of them.
Mhm. I was about to say that the Cubs logo
Yeah,
is amazing.
wicked cool. So yeah, these are cool pieces. Cool way to commemorate that game. I'm a huge fan of it, even though it was the Cubs and the Reds this year instead of
Mhm.
the White Sox and the Yankees last year. It was still a good game. Still enjoyed watching it, and I think it's a good concept for baseball. So cool that they put out some product around that.
Maybe next year we could get the Giants and Dodgers in their Brooklyn and New York style.
That would be very cool. That would be very cool. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what the matchups continue to be. This is, effectively the what's it called? What's the hockey equivalent of this, where they do them in the baseball stadiums? What's that called? Why can't I think of it?
I have no idea what you're talking
Where they
about. I've
put
never
the
heard
where
of
they
this.
put the they had it at Fenway Park. They had it at um, well, I'll just cut this. So screw me. Uh,
The NHL Stadium Series?
No, the game that they play every year for the NHL, where it's outside. They play it in like a baseball stadium. They did it at Fenway Park. They did one at Gillette Stadium, and I can't think of the
Says,
name of it. They play an
um,
outdoor NHL game.
yeah, NHL Stadium
Is
Series.
that what it's called?
That's what it looks like. Stadium Series, regular season outdoor games.
I guess it is,
Um,
and I'm just getting tripped up because I'm used to Stadium Series being a
a
candy
candy
thing.
thing.
So, but yes, that is what it is, and that was a great conversation. Moving right along. Shawn Michaels collection was also released yesterday or 2 days ago.
So Monday, August 15th was when they released the Open Edition $20 trading card NFT. And so that one's going to be on sale for about another week or so. And then today for us, Tuesday, August 16th, they released the limited edition. So it's a series of 100, the silver edition. And they also put the gold edition for auction. And so those are going to be going for the next 5 or 6 days as well. And right now, this at least while we record, the silver edition hasn't sold out quite yet. There's been 72 purchases, so about 28 to go. It seems likely that it will sell out, but it didn't have that, that immediate demand to sell out in a matter of minutes. And then I think one thing we touched on earlier is before this drop, they had the the WWE belt, which was
Hmm.
like a crossover with making a purchase on the Fanatics website or the new WWE portion of the Fanatics website. And so the belt is the most prolific of their NFTs so far. It's got over 1,100 that have been claimed, and that one's just free for people who made a purchase online. The Open Edition mint is sitting at about 350 minted, and then the silver, as I said, is currently at 72, but I think we do expect that to hit 100 and mint out, before the sale ends.
Yeah, so these are continuing to look like, a variation of the different things we've seen with some of its own flavor to it. So still nice quality NFTs here. I'm not huge into WWE, so this isn't my thing, but I'm still excited to see these NFTs. I'm excited to see these things continue to come out, and if they ever make anything for Andre the Giant, I'll probably grab that. So yeah, it's a cool drop. Obviously, not as high demand here. Continuing to
Mm-hmm.
build out that community, that fan base, and this is a good way to gauge that, right? So a lot of times we see with the 100 edition, anything with MLB sells out very quickly. This did not do that, although to your point, I think that it will sell out since we're already 70% of the way there, give or take. And then, like has become the case, we've got this one of one up for auction. It's up to 2,300 right now. Another cool piece there. So we'll keep an eye on that. That ends in 6 days. 6 days. So we'll see where that lands.
And we'll see, yeah, what type of product they go with from here. I know a lot of people would like to see, something in the pack variety so they can get a more of a variety of their favorite wrestlers. But we don't know if that's going to include vintage wrestlers like Shawn Michaels, or if it's going to be only current wrestlers. It could be tailored to different appetites, and we'll just have to see what direction they run with it and how they interpret the information they're gathering right now from their current sales.
So we also have the Cal Ripken Jr. drop, and this is the one that has not started yet, but we just got a fresh announcement on this a few hours ago today on Tuesday the 16th. And so just taking that snapshot straight from Discord, we've got the one of one auction, same as the one we were just showing, and many of the other legend things that we've gone through so far. So this is going to come with a physical print of the legendary icon that is signed by Cal Ripken Jr. That's very cool. Also going to come with a 15-minute Zoom call with Ripken. And this piece, the reserved number one serial of an additional... Oh, you know what? That's the airdrop that comes later. Am I getting this backwards now?
There's two things. The Epic does
Okay.
come with a physical print, and that will be signed. And so there will be a snapshot for Epic holders. But something completely separate is it's a of 170, it looks like. And this is just a separate plaque NFT that's going to be airdropped to holders of any rarity. So it
Right.
doesn't have to be Epic. It could be cores, uncommons, or rares. They're just going to take a snapshot at that point as well and just raffle those off to 170 different holders. And so, most people are going to have a pretty good shot to land one of those because there's only going to be 1,200 copies across all rarities to begin with. And it stands to reason that some of them are going to still be wrapped at the time they take the snapshot. So those are pretty good odds.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Clearly, I'm on my B game today so far. But the coolest concept here is that these are going to be released in blind boxes. So instead of having to go in and make your decision on each individual rarity, which one you want to buy, which is what initially it looked like it was going to be formatted as, these are going to come in blind boxes similar to the Stranger Things drop, where you buy the box for $25 and then you have a shot at any of the rarities. So presumably if you get a core, it will not make your value back. I'm not sure where that benchmark will hit, but obviously the epic is going to be the one that you're hunting for there. So edition out of 50, the rares are out of 120, the uncommon out of 330, and the cores out of 700. And to your point, the epics are also going to come with a physical print of the epic icon signed by Ripken, which is very cool. I like to see that overlap with the IRL stuff. And that's going to be a snapshot. So it looks like you'll be able to get that on secondary if you choose to go and buy one from somebody that ripped one. But yeah, this is another unique take on a drop. It's something that is an idea that you had a few weeks ago, something that we had discussed. I don't remember if it was on the show or in Discord, but liking seeing varied drops here, still seeing elements that are consistent, like the one-of-one auction and the epic through core rarity, but seeing the blind box make its way into an MLB drop. It'll be interesting to see how people take to this and how it plays out.
Right, and we did have a discussion, and then after that point, I did go ahead and kind of compile, my thoughts on how I would like the Ripken drop to work, and so I left that as a suggestion on the Discord. Can't be certain if that played a factor in them making this change, because I know I wasn't the only one to give that feedback, but the fact remains that Candy did take feedback, and they used that to guide their change into going with this blind box instead of just pricing all the rarities differently. And that's going to give people an opportunity to land that epic or that rare that they might desire without having to pay, potentially hundreds of dollars for them. Get it in a $25 box if you're lucky enough. And so I think that's a positive change. One interesting dynamic we're going to see here, though, is that there's only 7 days between these blind boxes being released and the snapshot being taken. So it's not the sort of thing where you can hold your box unopened for months on end. You've got a very limited window to make that decision of if you're going to rip it, if you're going to sell it to someone else. You've got options, but not for very long. You're going to want to make that decision before the snapshot occurs if you want a chance at one of those plaque NFTs for one of those epics before the snapshot happens.
Yeah, and to your point, the about the everybody having a shot at the epic, there are a lot of different views on how drops should go. I for one feel that we should have a variety of different drops because then it adds different elements of fun for all different types of collectors. First come first serve has an element of excitement to it for people that are ready to get right in there when things drop. Some people don't like that because they don't have the ability to do it. I don't think that everything needs to be perfectly fair for everyone, but I do think that it's nice when we have a drop like this where it won't be a race to get the 50 epics. You just buy a pack and everybody has an equal shot at one. So variety is the spice of life. I think that it's nice that we're seeing a variation here, and I hope that we continue to see a whole bunch of different things. Random queues, first come first serve, blind boxes. It adds to the fun of it. We need different types of drops, and then time will tell what people like the most. And I think that variety is fun. So this is a cool drop. I'm definitely grabbing one of these boxes. I don't know how many I'll grab, but I'm for sure grabbing at least one, and we'll be ripping them. So looking forward to this next week. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to touch on this one? Or are you good?
No, I love the direction they took this in, obviously, and I'm excited to see not only how it goes, but how the community reacts to this style of drop. Because, just having this positive sentiment to a change like this could just be a good thing overall for the state of the community, versus the sometimes funk that we fall into between drops or because of drops. And so I think this could be a good change.
Agreed. I enjoy these legend drops, the specialty players, and Ripken's definitely a player that I grew up on. So looking forward to this one. So with that, let's jump into Titans here. And let's start by just quickly taking a look at the floors of the Titans that have already been airdropped. So these are all in circulation, and these are the top 5 floor prices of any Titan that's come out so far, which is 25 total Titans, right? Is that
Yeah, it was 25
Yeah.
going into this week.
Right.
And so when these go out, we'll be up to 35 on
Yeah.
Friday.
So the 10 that we're in the middle of, which we are going to talk about, have not been airdropped yet. But from the first 25 that have, we've got Judge and Wander in a league of their own, kind of jockeying for 1 and 2 position. And then we've got Miggy, Goldie, and Alonzo rounding out the top 5. I think that the most interesting piece about this here is that you've got 4 guys from lineups 1 and 2 and 1 guy from lineup 3. So we've got 4 of these are fully distributed, and then Judge is the one that is only 50% distributed, and yet him and Wander are still same price. So it'd be interesting to go take a look. That's oversimplifying it too, because it all comes down to player. Prospects, younger guys are always going to have this element of excitement and upside to them that's going to drive prices, but Judge is also, making a run for the MVP. So it's a heavyweight bout between the two of them, and it's interesting to see them sitting at the same floor, even though one had double the supply available. But it also shows that even though we have had some other cards come from non-lineups 1 and 2, we're still seeing mostly lineup 1 and 2 in the top 5. And what that tells us is that at the end of the day, the most important element is the player, because these are the most desirable players that have come out as Titans yet. So it doesn't matter that Santander only minted 70 and his supply was lower, and it's not going to drive his floor price up to these levels because it's still not these guys. So it's important to remember that that at the end of the day, the player really is what matters the most in collecting when it comes to value. And you see that in a graphic like this when you know that we've got guys like Bellinger and Santander that have come from other lineups. So I don't know if there's anything that you've personally noticed on some of these other Titans that are out right now.
Well, I think one of the things that this speaks to is the fact that we might have seen even a larger disparity had the supplies been equal. I think you could make the case that Judge would not be finding himself at the 1 spot right now if he weren't from lineup 3. If you're from 1 or 2, he would probably be comfortably 2nd or possibly even 3rd, just because it isn't even that there would have been that much more supply. It's that the supply would have been cheaper to put those Titans together. And so people would have completed their Titans at lower price points, and so their cost for those 100 Titans would have been lower, and that expectation of value of the Titan itself would be lower. Because we see guys where people put together their Titans for $20, and those are the ones that are holding those cheaper $30 Titan floors. And if Judge were from lineup 1 or 2, you could pretty comfortably cut his prices in half in the weeks leading up to his Titan, and that would affect, his Titan value as well. It's just that expectation people have based upon what they paid to craft it in the first place. And one thing that I've been mentioning time and time again on the Discord is that uh, you really shouldn't be crafting a Titan to sell it, because chances are, if you're doing it the day of, the only people who are going to be really interested and passionate about that player to the point that they would want to buy it, they probably just made one themselves. It's not that difficult to have done, and they probably would have bought the pieces before you did and paid less for them. And so it can be pretty difficult to try and put a product together to sell to somebody that they had access to build themselves and cheaper than you did. And so I just want to encourage people to craft Titans that you want for yourself. Obviously, there is some room to find profit in certain circumstances, but what we've been seeing is for most people who are interested in a player, it's been a smooth process to just craft one yourself. And there hasn't been too many cases where the player's gone in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. There's enough time to get your own, and I think we're going to continue to see that for most players, with just a couple notable exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen even the guys that have gone fast, pretty much everybody has had an opportunity to get one if they want one. And this comes back to a conversation that we've had about open mint drops, where if you are buying an open mint drop, and this is kind of a variation of that. It's not the same, but the sentiment
Mm-hmm.
that I'm going to make here is the same, which is that, like you're saying, anybody that wants one can go get one if they really want it. And so the opportunity to sell that at a markup might come, but it's going to be further down the line when the community grows and people enter that didn't have a chance to mint it when it happened. But given
Mm-hmm.
what we already have right now of with a user base, to your point, those who want one are going to get one. So yes, there's room for profit if you bought your pieces months ago, and now it's a totally different equation. But if you're buying it day of, if anything, we've seen that the value has gone down because most people are not buying their pieces day of, although plenty are. And there's no problem with that as long as you're minting something that you personally want. So it's good to understand that, and it's a good point to note. Let's take a look at this week's Titans. So we have 5 active and 5 that are done, and there's a reason for that. The 5 that are done are all from lineups 1 and 2. So that is Bregman, Rosario, LeMahieu, Kyle Lewis, and Julio Urias. All 5 of them are from lineups 1 and 2. They've minted out to 100. And then the active remaining are all from lineups 3 or later. So Segura, J-Rod, Hunter Green, Grichuk, and Acuna. And I think Segura was lineup 3, and I think that
Right.
the rest of these guys were from lineups 4 through 6. Is that right?
Yeah, Segura from 3, Acuna and J-Rod from 4, Green from 5, and Grichuk from 6. And Segura he hit 95 earlier today. I haven't checked in about an hour, so he might still be at 95, but
Yep.
he could he could potentially make that push. He's home stretch. He might hit 100 before the minting stops on Thursday, but none of the other 4 will. It's virtually impossible. The supply for them just doesn't exist.
Yeah, so let's talk about J-Rod a little bit here because he's been a super fun one to watch. His epic prices have gone crazy, but he's also just, he's arguably the most desirable card in this whole set. It's a true rookie card. I know that we have his 2021 Uncut Diamonds card, but I would consider that more of a Bowman, and I still would say that that's the more desirable, especially at the rare and epic tiers in terms of the mint counts. But these Titans, theoretically out of 100, but to your point, it's not going to be that. We're going to be looking at more like 70 or 80 of these. This is going to be right up there with those original 2021 J Rods. And so this is something that is in, he was lineup 4, I believe.
Mhm.
And because of that, it's a 25% supply. And his epics are really cool to look at because at this point, we only have 3 active listings. So they just don't exist anymore. And the ones that we've seen sell in the last 24 hours, so you can see 815 is where we started here. So one got picked up right away for 750. I think that was sitting there on the floor. And then you had a handful of people come in and list after that. So we saw 3 of them go for 500, 500, and 600. And then there was another one sitting there at 740. Somebody grabbed that. And then today we saw one go for 950. And I'm not sure that this is with the intention to burn because it was a single digit serial. I could see that being one that somebody chooses to hold. To me, this continues to be a really nervous buy because we don't know what's happening truly with the remaining L3 through L6 packs. And so I'm not saying that it's a bad buy. I just have no idea. What we're seeing right now is that these packs are getting trickled out with the kind of rewards each week for people that are doing the most burning. And there's different criteria. You don't know what it is. I love that concept. Really cool. Rewarding something that is just kind of a blind reward. So this past week it was 100 cores. We've seen it be burning the most epics, things of that nature. But this, what we're seeing here, this pricing is a product of just a perfect storm of all the right elements. It's a low mint count. It's it's an even lower mint count because of the quantity that's been distributed. It's an extremely desirable player with tons of upside in his rookie season. So this is just one of the coolest cards to watch in my opinion, and the Titans are going to be the same. So I don't know if there's anything specific that you've watched. We've both been watching all the different rarities on J-Rod, but he's a fun one to watch in this set.
Well, and we mentioned it last week, but his epics, as you said, there's only 3 listings, and there's only 26 unlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from those that are still wrapped in packs. And so even if no more get burned between now and Friday, he's going to have 70, 75 Titans, maybe a few more, and he's only going to have 29 epics. So at least for a period of time, his epics will be, in far fewer supply than his Titans once those get airdropped on Friday. And so it's going to create this interesting dynamic. We still see on some other players from the previous lineups where their epics cost more than their Titans. It doesn't mean those epics are going to sell at those prices, but one of the explanations is just the fact that right now there could be less of them. And we're going to see that with Acuna as well, also from lineup 4. Pretty much anyone from lineup 4, 5, and 6, as long as a reasonable number of their epics get burned, they're going to end up with more Titans than epics, at least for a season. And we'll see when that changes, when the dynamic is going to shift. And so to your point, that single digit epic buy, that could be a bit premature. It just depends on how long we see this dynamic where there's fewer epics than Titans. And, if that person particularly wanted a single digit epic, they might have been better off waiting a year, until the rest of that supply came in whatever form it comes. But, if as long as they're happy with it, that is the most important thing. It's just one of those factors that we have to keep in mind.
And we could be totally wrong. It might not ever play out that there's such an influx of supply that it matters, but it's certainly not a problem that I envy. I don't envy that Candy has to deal with this because you've got a scenario where Titans are meant to be more rare than epics. And in the current format with these later packs, that's simply not the case because of supply. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And only time will tell what they do to remedy that. And I'm glad that I don't have to come up with a solution to it. I'm not even going to attempt it. So that's a tough one.
We're all in agreement, at least, that we don't want them to remedy with additional supply until after the Titan burning is done. because we've all been operating under the impression that they're not going to. And so that would invalidate a lot of decisions being made right now if that supply came before the burning was over. But afterwards, yeah, it's a difficult conversation. It's a difficult problem that they're going to have to tackle because maybe these people who are paying a premium for these low supply epics are going to feel unhappy when that supply does eventually rear up.
So I want to have a quick discussion here regarding a non 100 mint on these cards, because I think that some people might be interpreting that as a bad thing or a decrease in demand, and I don't personally see it that way, and I don't think that you do either. So this one barely makes the conversation with Taiwan Walker minting 99, kind of funny, one short, and we saw that Santander only minted 70, and we're going to see some more not mint out fully. We've got Julio Rodriguez sitting at around 70. Acuna is right around the same. Let's see where Green is at. He's in a similar ballpark. Yeah, so right around 70 as well. This is what we expected to see. And I think that this is what Candy intended, honestly, from conversation that we read in Discord prior to Titans starting, which is that this was meant to be a difficult decision. And when you have, I think that these lineup 4 through 6 or lineup 3 through 6 Titans are a better representation of what this was supposed to look like. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing that we had 100 Titans minted out on some of these. That's fun, that's exciting. But I think that this is what they were going for, where it's meant to be a tough decision. It's not meant to be a no-brainer. And so now that we've got that squeeze on the supply, we're starting to see that, and it's going to create a J-Rod mint of 70 instead of 100, and I think that that's cool. I don't think that it means anything negative. It's just that now we've gotten to the point where we're distributing enough Titans each week from a variety of lineups with some decreased supplies, and we're seeing what that looks like with a different supply demand equation, and I think that that's a good thing.
Now pull up Grichuk, because I think that's another conversation about that supply. Unlike Santander, who did manage to push his way to 70 mints last week, Grichuk is sitting at 32 right now, 68 to go, and he might not get much further than that. And so I think that that is lower than most people were expecting for perhaps even the lowest of players, but that could just be in line with the demand that Grichuk has at the moment. But something that occurs to me is that he could just be having the misfortune of being on the same week as Acuna and the same week as Julio Rodriguez. And I think they're taking a lot of the bandwidth of what's available for purchasing power this week. That even though he's only sitting at 32 mints, and even though that would be really attractive to have a Titan that has less than 40 mints or less than 50, depending on where he ends up, I think just if he'd been in a lineup where, or in a week, I should say, where he was the only player from 4, 5, and 6, like Santander was last week, I think that would have focused a lot more of that purchasing power into him. And that's just not what we're seeing right now. But it's just another thing to be paying attention to. Someone like this who is going to fly almost under the radar when you put him next to those stars.
Yep. And I think that where this becomes really intriguing is if at some point we see some type of Titan set challenge or collection challenge, because that's where the bottlenecks will play in. Because if this only mints out to be 30 or 40 of these, it's going to be a pinch point in creating that set. So those are angles that each individual needs to decide if they want to roll those dice on. It's far from certain. We've already got a bunch of different challenges and sets, and you can't bank on anything, but those are the types of speculative plays that you can operate on. It'll be interesting to see what these are going for on secondary when they do drop. So let's just jump into Acuna, the last one. So I'm going to do an Acuna Titan. I just haven't done it yet. I've been watching everything closely, and I'm also, don't quote me on it, but I'm hoping to do a simplified version of a walkthrough on how to do a burn and just make a super quick video. So I've been saving this to do it. But just for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, this is what it looks like. You come in here and it'll give you the big green banner. If you have what you need, you can go in and you can start checking everything off. So it shows me all of my Acuñas that I own, and as I check these things off, you can see it accumulating down the bottom. Once you get all of your 51 points of the given card, then you can come down below and you start working through your additional 49 until you got your 100. So that's how that works. It's a pretty smooth process, and then you get the cool graphic at the end of it. I just haven't quite done it yet. So anything else on that? What's that?
And there hasn't been a rush.
Right.
Because, with these later lineup players, you don't have to be ready the minute that burning becomes available, like you will with these lineup 1 and lineup 2 players.
Yeah, I was watching it super, super closely, making sure that it wasn't going to mint out. I got a little bit nervous when we saw 50 of them happen almost immediately, and I was thinking about doing it, but you and I were discussing it, knew that the likelihood is that it was going to stall out, and it did. So now I've got a little bit of a luxury of time to create some content out of it. But yeah, it's going to be cool to mint an Acuña and hopefully have it be less than 100. It seems that that's what it will be looking like. Anything else on this?
No, not on this week's Titans.
So you had noticed, and this, I don't know, this isn't a long conversation. I don't know if I can go and find anything that jumps out, but you had noticed a lot of people doing some pre-purchasing in advance. And I don't know if there's any particular player that you were noticing getting bought up, but what I mean by that is just people not buying the guys from this week, but buying guys that we know the Titans are coming, but they haven't come yet. And so I'll scan through this real quick, but I don't know if there's anything specific that you noticed.
So this was most noticeable. I don't remember if it was last Wednesday night or last Thursday night, but something that almost everyone on the Discord noticed was just chunks of players being purchased. First it was just a dozen Trouts, and then a dozen Otanis, and then it was just down the line, top player followed by top player followed by top player, and it was just 5, 6, 7, 8 or more of that player. And a lot of them were the leadoff players, and it appears to be people putting together these burn piles in advance, because especially now that we've seen what happens to the prices on these lineup 4, 5, and 6 players, people are starting to come to the realization that you really don't want to wait until the day of. Julio Rodriguez is a perfect example. If we went back to June or early July, his Epic was available just as a floor price of about $200. And as we mentioned earlier, it's sitting at $950. It is quadrupled in price. And they're not all going to see that level of increase, but many of them from these later lineups will at least double on the day of. And so it's not just the same buyer buying stuff up. It's multiple different buyers, and it's them, isolating the players that they're passionate about and picking up 51 or 102 points of them and getting ready in advance. And it's just throughout the week we'll just see, oh, someone just bought 10 Kiermaiers, or it's not necessarily the top name players, but it's just someone who's got a Titan coming that hasn't come yet, and it's 8 or 10 of their cards snatched up. And it's a lot more prevalent now that we've seen a few of these Titan weeks in the bag. And we're going to keep seeing more of it as people try to stay ahead of these day of pricings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've noticed that while there may be enough supply from lineups 1 and 2 on the day of the burn to kind of just maintain a floor price where it's not absurd to buy it the day of, we've noticed that lineups 3 through 6, you do see an increase because there just isn't enough new listings coming in. So it is still advantageous if you've got a guy that you want to stack from one of those later lineups to do it in advance, do it before that Titan Day comes and all that attention is on that name. So good observation, something that we've talked about from different angles in the past, but definitely something that is worth continuing to consider if you haven't rounded out your burn piles of guys that you want to get yet. So I think that kind of does it on Titans. We will obviously continue talking about this each week because it's ongoing and it's a lot of fun. But the last thing that we wanted to jump into here was a little conversation around packs, and specifically a comparison between the 2021 All-Star packs and the 2022 Hall of Fame 10 icon packs, which both are in the category of some of the more successful packs that we've seen so far. They are drastically different, so they are difficult to compare, and not sure if there's any conclusion necessarily to be reached here, but just something that wanted to put together a little graphic and have a little conversation around it. So I'll let you take the lead on this one.
I think it can also be instructive just to see where things have gone in the year, or well, not quite a year since the first packs were released, and to see the type of changes that are being made to these products. Because we started, of course, last October, or yeah, end of October, beginning of November, with those 2021 All Star packs, and it was $50 for a pack of three, about $17 a card, and they were mostly cores, with you'd expect to get one, or if you were lucky, two non-cores in those packs of threes, and that's kind of evolved. It's iterated since then. We saw them make an adjustment for the leadoff packs, and we saw some of those changes be not very well received, and they kind of pulled things back and tried to tune the equation. And I think with this Hall of Fame pack, at least with the 10 pack, the 10 icon pack, we got something kind of similar, at least in how good it felt to have the pack and rip the pack, to that experience we had last year with the 2021 set. But there are some drastic differences in terms of how many icons are in each pack, the ratio of icons that are going to be that rare or epic level. There's a lot of numerical differences, but in some ways they feel very similar to me, at least.
Yeah, I think that the Hall of Fame drop was a significant move in the right direction in terms of creating a product that people were going to be excited to rip. And we're specifically talking about the 10 icon packs. 4 icon packs are a lot more similar to the leadoff series, where it's an enjoyable experience to open, but it's a little bit more of a lottery ticket, which is what traditional baseball card packs are. So, take that with a grain of salt, but that kind of is what baseball packs have been through the years. So this is a more premium pack, and to your point, there have been things that have gone well, things that have gone poorly. I think that we learned a lot about what can work from the 2021 cards. I think that when we saw this Hall of Fame drop come out with the limited supply in packs overall, that was a huge improvement, first and foremost. Just not having the 2 million new NFTs coming out with the leadoff series, that was a far cry from the 25,000 packs that we had come out on the 2021 stuff. And that's All Stars and Uncut Diamonds combined. So we took a step back with the Hall of Fame stuff, and we also moved back to an equation of having all desirable players. Certainly there's still a hierarchy there, but in general, it was all guys that you knew. Even the relievers were Hall of Fame relievers. So there's nobody that was just truly a bust in pulling that. But then in this scenario, we got the full experience of getting all the different rarities for the most part. And you weren't guaranteed an epic, but we saw a lot of epics get pulled. 5 out of 6 packs contain an epic. You get 2 rares, and then if you don't get that epic, you're going to get a 3rd rare. So it created a much more guaranteed scenario where you knew you were going to open it and get some good stuff. And in addition to that, you still had the upside of pulling something crazy, because the legendary probability was 1 in 56, which was the most significant bump in those odds that we've seen in any pack so far as well. So the upside was still there. You could pull an epic Griffey, you could pull an epic Frank Thomas, and you still had the shot at a legendary too. So they created a pack experience that you knew going into it was going to be a much more, I don't want to say
Hmm.
positive. You just have to have the right mindset of what you're opening. When you're opening a $30 leadoff series pack, you're doing it because it's fun and because there's upside there. You just have to have that in perspective. There's nothing right or wrong about that. Certainly, the supply was too great. Nobody's arguing that, so we don't need to discuss that. But the these Hall of Fame packs have that new wrinkle to it where you kind of know what you're getting, and there's something nice about that. It's at a premium cost, but you know that you're going to get something that's worth your money.
Right. Even though you are paying 5 times the original cost of those 2021 packs, um, you have the impression at least that you're gonna open as many rares or epics as you might have seen in 5 of those 2021 packs to begin with, and so that ratio of epic and rare to core, it just feels nicer. But you still you can't really put a price on being the first pack either. And so, in spite of how far it's come, it it has to be acknowledged that the 2021 packs have held a crazy value relative to what was paid for them. There's still they fluctuated a lot. At one point, they were holding $1,200, $1,300 for for dozens of sales, but even at $600, that's 12 times what was paid for them. And that's, I think, largely in part because they're that Genesis product. There's only going to be one first pack, and it's this one. And I think that's baked into that as well.
Yeah, certainly. It didn't hold that crazy high, and there was so much going on there. We were in a much different time with the economy, with the crypto markets, with all the markets, and there was also just a ton of hype around it, right? And we've seen that happens with every product drop, not just in candy, but just anything. There's always hype around the excitement of what's happening, right now. But to your point, it's still 12x what retail was, and like you said, you can never have a Genesis product again, but it does show that when you've got the right equation of supply with the quality of product, quality of contents within those packs, that you can create an experience that people want to be involved with. And so while these Hall of Fame 10 icon packs are not, they're not worth $2,500 even though they sold for $250, they're still holding a secondary value above retail value, and that's a good sign. It means that people believe in the contents. They are happy with what is being ripped, and we continue to see packs sell every single day. And they've fluctuated. They've flirted with that 250, but they've also flirted with 450, and it's gone up and down. So it's a healthy place for a pack to be, and it's combating a lot of the issues that we've seen with packs in between these two. So, anything else you wanted to hit on that?
No, I think that's yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at. And as you said, that there's no winner here. It's just two different things. But I think contrasting them, just kind of gives us some new information, just
Mm-hmm.
gives us some perspective on where things were and where they are now.
Yeah, it's just taking a look at two of the more successful products that Candy has dropped so far, and there are lessons to be learned from the positives that have happened too. So hopefully we continue to see pack drops that are designed with the right things in mind, with the current demand that we have, right? The demand is what it is, and we need to see drops that reflect that. And I hope that when we inevitably get a 2023 leadoff series next year, that there's a lot more thought that goes into it, and we have a very different product that comes out. But I hope they do it with taste and with thought about what that means within the whole ecosystem, because at the end of the day, that's what we're learning is going to be one of the biggest challenges for Candy, is balancing all of this product. And you say what you want about the volume of product drops, it does feel high at times, but it's also not to be unexpected. If this is a sports collectible company and MLB is one of their big partnerships, then when the Field of Dreams gets played, they're going to put a product out for that. And so you can say what you want about it, but it's not like we're getting blindsided by that. It's to be expected. So that just means that in turn it's Candy's responsibility to make sure that when they do these product drops, it's in the right format, it's at the right price point with the right volume, and is in alignment with what they know the demand is going to be. And so as long as they continue to pay attention to that and continue to make variations and adjustments to what these drops look like, hopefully that will mean a healthier experience for the consumer along the way, and that we don't have things like lineups 1 and 2 from the leadoff series. We have things like lineups 4, 5, and 6, which are proving to be a much more realistic, enjoyable product to interact with. So as long as we don't get a huge dump of those packs, it'll be a good case study to continue watching guys like J-Rod and Acuna and Devers along the way from those later lineups. So you have a parting thought?
I like that you snuck Devers in there. I think Crawford and Yastrzemski might be just as enlightening from those later drops.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just excited to see any giant become a Titan at some point here. Been waiting.
Yes, you've been patiently waiting. I'm waiting for you. I can't wait to do my Devers. I actually have enough for... Well, I'm flirting with enough for 2 Devers. I need to decide if I'm going to round that out. So we'll see if I do that. But
don't wait.
Yeah, seriously. Well, it's expensive anyway, but I'm close enough. So with that, my name is Nate. That's David. This is the Talking Candy Weekly Update, and we will see you in the next one.